so terrible and blah, blah, blah. And I always sort of sit there and I'm like, well, wait, there's coaches elsewhere in the world right now training this generation that's coming up, and they're doing well. So why are you saying that? So that's the thing, is that I feel like
Americans are soft, or
they'll say that, but I think from my perspective is that the kids in this generation is you need to relate to them. Like you have to have a way to relate to them, and I didn't grow up with a cell phone, but these kids are, so I have to come up with different ways to relate to them. And once you relate to the kid, then the kid will buy into you a little more because they see you more as their peer, and they're willing to listen to you because they're not as intimidated by you. I think with kids, that's the big thing, is just finding this way to get into them and to learn about who they are, and then use that to get them to be better.
Most of the kids who train with you, and what's the age groups? I mean, I guess you can't start too young as a weightlifter, right?
As long as they have good flexibility and good mobility, and they can handle coaching cues pretty well, it's similar to gymnastics, where it's like I have kids that are 7 years old, but again, it's
really?
It's more
because it used to be, I guess, everything gets outdated. Like weights would make you muscle bound back in the day. It
was like stunt your growth. A lot of
it would stunt your growth. You should wait till you stop growing. Just do push-ups.
Yeah.
That's not true then.
No, I would say when I first started lifting, I was in 8th grade, and from my 8th grade year till 9th grade, I grew 4 inches and I gained 75 pounds. So I'm always like, well, does that really hold up? No, there's no science to back.
Well, it's funny how times have changed.
Yeah.
I played football at Central Catholic in the mid-'60s, towards the late '60s. We had one barbell back down in St. Lawrence. And no one picked it up. It used to be on the way to the shower, so people would just step over it on the way to the shower. And now, my kids went to Wilson, and I see all the weights.
They lift well.
Yeah, but the kids who train with you, are they doing it for sports, or not necessarily? I know Haley and some of the others want to be lifters.
I've had an All-American or a state champion in 7 different sports. So
it's not just
I've had volleyball. I've had all-state soccer players. I've had 6 all-state football players. I've had a state champion wrestler. I've had an All-American in wrestling.
You have to train them a little differently depending on their sport discipline.
Yeah, so everything's more, as far as like weightlifting, I sort of have like weightlifting grouped over here, and then on this side is the sports performance. And then I sort of I've done a lot of research on, what does a swimmer need, and if they're a 50-meter sprinter or if they're 100 meters versus a 500 meter. There's different qualities that I need to enhance for them to get better at their sport. And the same goes for volleyball, or if I have a baseball player come in, or a football player. They're all going to be trained a little bit differently, tweaked based off of what that sporting quality is that will make them better.
Now, you train mostly athletes. I mean, you're not going to train, some people in their 30s and 40s are just looking for a workout.
I have a couple. Yeah, I have a decent amount. Yeah.
They must be in darn good shape for their age, right?
Yeah, pretty good shape. Yeah, for sure. Strong.
But the average person would kind of be intimidated.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, is that when someone first comes in, like a couple months after they get into the routine of training, they're like, I just want you to know that this place is the most intimidating place I've ever been. But now I feel like it's so soft and like easy to come in here. And I think that intimidation factor does help people long term to be accountable, because if you come in and you would train with me for 2 weeks and then you flake out and you don't show up for another 2 weeks, you'll hear it from me. I'll be texting you. I'll be calling you. Where are you?
What is it? You mentioned the mental aspect earlier. Back in the day when I would see weightlifters, I mean, they really psych themselves up.
Right.
I think it's funny. I don't go to intense gym like yours. Because I'm old, but I go to, and I see guys who aren't even lifting that much, just going on a machine. Or they're psyching themselves up. But there is something to that. Sometimes I'm amused they're stalking like they're ready to set the Olympic record, But there is something about mentally willing it to lift it.
Yeah, for sure. The more focused you are mentally, the more control over the motor unit recruitment you'll have. So if I'm more focused, and this is a big factor that goes into the technical side. You've got to be very, very focused as far as the technique in throwing or the technique in Olympic weightlifting. You have to be very, very focused on those movements. So if you're getting into a big lift or a big throw, you've got to have everything, your nervous system heightened. So these guys might look like they're ready to rip somebody's head off, so they get their adrenaline rushing, but they're also zeroing in on what they want to focus on technically as well. So it sort of looks like, oh, that guy's just a meathead, but he might actually be thinking like, okay, I got to finish the pull at the top and then catch tight so I don't miss this snatch. Whereas somebody on the outside might be like, oh, he looks like a monster just growling at the bar.
Now the non-Olympic lifter types who are just doing their other athletics, track or whatever, football as you mentioned, they're not just doing the Olympic lifts with your training, they're doing other things, right?
Yeah, so that's where...
Do your Olympic lifters, weightlifters, do they do other... I assume they do, they just don't do the Olympic lifts, right?
Yeah, they do, like some of my weightlifters have played other sports too.
But I mean, when they're currently doing that for weightlifting, they're still doing a variety of exercises.
They're still doing other accessory movements that will improve their...
Do they do sometimes lower weights, higher reps? So it's not everything max, single rep?
Yeah. No, a lot of, and that's where like factoring in, it's not, like improving their technique, you can't always go to max. You've got to do triples and doubles to focus on improving their technical movement. And that's too where I have a guy that I work with. His name's the mobility doc. He helps me with movement patterns and understanding the biomechanics of somebody and where they might have an impingement, or maybe their glutes not firing, or their hamstrings aren't working, or they have tight ankles. And that's where he'll help me analyze the movements that I see with football players or with other athletes, and then from there I can prescribe certain lifts that might be a bodybuilding lift.
You video these guys when they're working out?
Yeah.
It's interesting because with CrossFit, which is I want first of all your thoughts on CrossFit.
I think it's okay. I think some of the stuff's crazy that I think it gets a really bad name because some of the videos are absurd and some of the stuff they do is ridiculous. But I think for the most part it's a good, if you look at it as a sport, which it is a sport, I think it's fine. It's just you got to weed through the junk to get to the base.
Because one thing about it does kind of emphasize strength, speed, and endurance, which is the key thing. What about the World's Strongest Men competition? I mean, it used to be mostly just lifting. Now they have these Goliaths from all over the world who are picking up monuments and statues. But the key thing about it is that you also have to have some cardio with it.
Yeah, I always say it's CrossFit for fat guys.
But these people are enormously strong. And actually, they're pretty cardio fit for some of the things they do.
And the stuff that they do, and you want to talk about the mental side.
I don't know why their joints are destroyed.
Well, because they're on drugs. But the strong men are the performance enhancing stuff aside. Mentally, those guys are freaks. They can handle stress so well. They're freak athletes. Like people don't grasp what they're doing and how physically and mentally taxing it is. And that's the thing with CrossFit. The CrossFit. One of my best friends he's been to the CrossFit Games twice. The stuff that he's willing to put himself through, and the study of the sport and the physical side, the appreciation for it is just what they've done for sports performance is incredible.
Have I missed anything? Because we're starting to get. What else would you like to stress? I mean, how do people sign up for your plays?
So if they go on garagestrength.com, they can check out what the rates are, and they can see videos. If they go to my YouTube channel, it's Garage Strength on YouTube. They can see highlight videos. They can see. We just got back from the American Open, which is one of the biggest weightlifting events of the year. On Instagram, I'm at Garage Strength, and then on Facebook, it's Garage Strength Farm. So it's sort of, I've got a lot of, good information, but also videos of my lifters and what we do on a day-to-day basis, and sort of like the daily grind of when you come in and what you're expected. So
I'm sure you have different rates for elite athletes than you do kids, right?
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of the lifting, so if a guy that was in the NFL would come and train with me, there would be a different basis of...
Right. Do you have any NFL guys or NFL aspirants?
I have a couple guys that, I have a Division II All-American who's a lineman last year he had a couple pro days, and this year he's trying to get back into it. It's hard. It's very hard. Especially from a smaller school, it's hard to get noticed. But it's just one of those things that, football, it has a lot to do with where you're at. If you're at a big time school like Penn State or Alabama or Clemson.
So it's amazing Kutztown has had a few pro.
Yeah, and Kutztown's got a lineman this year that should make it.
Yeah, I heard he's pretty good.
He's good.
Do you ever regret not, now that you're such a great coach of weightlifting, that you weren't a Olympic lifter?
Actually, yeah. I think if I would have been trained, if someone would have gotten me from the time I was like 14 or 15, I would have been a weightlifter completely, for sure.
Really? Even though football and track is great, though.
Yeah, I did well. I mean, I did well with football, and I did well with track. I think I could have been an elite shot putter if a couple of things had changed, if I didn't drink as much in college.
But it was different back then. Yeah. Did they have masters? Could you become a masters competitor?
I could, but I'm not competing anymore. I have no interest. I have no interest in competing. I think
because you couldn't go bomb out and then your client would say, "What is this, man?"
Yeah. For me personally, it's like the things that I didn't accomplish as an athlete, like becoming I didn't become an All-American, and to me, I failed.
And you sound like you were really driven to do that.
Yeah, I was, and that was a huge failure for me as an athlete. And that's motivated me I want to become the best strength coach in the world, and that's.
You seem like you're on your way.
Hopefully.
What are that's your ultimate goal?
Yeah, and I think, ironically, I think a lot of that is driven by the fact that I was a failure as an athlete.
Well, you're pretty harsh on yourself. I mean, 2-time All-Berks County lineman of the year. Yeah. Yeah. You opted not to play football at Penn State, right?
Yeah, I didn't. Football, I always struggled with. It would be like cold outside like today, and I just couldn't. I liked hitting people, but I was so lazy when it would come to practice. I didn't like the endurance side. That's where I hated the endurance factor of football.
Yeah. Well, you might have been better off with all the studies coming out with CTE.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's what I blame sometimes now. Oh yeah, well, I had that concussion, but. It's amazing what you've done, and I applaud you. This is a dream come true. Now I know you're pretty hard on yourself, but
yeah, for sure. When I look at the gym now, where we're at, 8 years in, and now I think, where could I be in another 8 years or whatever, another 20 years? I'm proud of where I'm at, but I'm not done.
And when one of your clients has great success,
right,
that's
the best feeling.
Yeah. Do you ever go to some of their competitions? I know it's hard.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been to states. I've had 10 state champions, and I've been to every single time that I've had a state champion. So it's cool to see that. It's cool to get the All-Americans. I was at NCAAs last year when Pete Renda, All-American for NC State in wrestling. So that's awesome. There's no better feeling than seeing somebody that you've seen put in the time and the effort, and then they get rewarded for it.
It's almost like a religious experience. You come full circle.
Yeah, exactly. That's good.
Thank you so much, Dane Miller, Garage Strength in Leesport, and you're moving to a new facility on Route 22 within the next month or so, right?
Yeah, hopefully within 2 months.
All right. Okay, well, this is for now. This is Mike Zielinski saying goodbye, and don't forget to support BCTV programming. And again, you're tax deductible if you want to send us a few dollars. Take care.